I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Mauritania to introduce a statement by the Minister.
سيد الرئيس سيدة
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present a pre-recorded statement made by the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Mauritania, His Excellency Ismael Ould Cheikh Ahmed, in the course of the general debate of the 75th session of the General Assembly. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على أشرف المرسلين.
In the name of God, the merciful and the compassionate, may peace be upon all of the distinguished participants, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Secretary General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, please allow me to congratulate His Excellency Mr. Volkan Bozkır, the permanent representative of Turkey, congratulate him on being elected to preside over the 75th session of the General Assembly. We wish him every success. I would like to also thank his predecessor, Mr. Tijani Mohamed Bande, permanent representative of Nigeria. Thank him for his effective and professional leadership of the deliberations of the 74th session of the General Assembly. I would also like to express my compliments to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres. Congratulate him on the reforms he started and the efforts he is making at the head of the UN in order to maintain peace and security. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the session is taking place at the time when the world is in the midst of a crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a crisis which has impacted all of the aspects of life in all corners of the world, and whose repercussions, tragic repercussions, continue to undermine hundreds of thousands of lives and to paralyze the global economy. This crisis has also laid bare the weakness of the current approaches. We therefore need to pool all of our efforts to minimize its economic impact, in particular in developing countries. In the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, we undertook the measures necessary in order to contain the spread of the virus and to protect the poorest categories of the society. In fact, we have been monitoring the local markets in order to make sure that the prices do not rise too much, ensure that medications are distributed at fixed prices, and also extended help to thousands of poor households who have been hard hit by the pandemic and the economic situation. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has had negative impact on our economic situation and also the economic situation of our African neighbors. The growth rate of the GNP has gone down, and our fiscal income as well. Our expenditure has gone up, and therefore resulted in a budget deficit. So we are appealing to yet once again for the cancellation of the external debt of African states to enable such states to deal with the economic and social consequences of the pandemic. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, as we celebrate this year as the 75th anniversary of this august organization, let's give thought jointly to the means of improving its performance in order to attain the sustainable development goals by 2030 in order to overcome the challenges we are all facing: environmental challenges, climate changes, health, education, stability, and development challenges. In this context, the President of the Republic, Mohamed Cheikh Ghazouani, launched an economic program based on the following: improving the infrastructure in order to have economic growth, provide assistance to economic sectors, stimulate demand, support production sectors, attain food security, support the private sector, both formal and informal, combat desertification and drought, and lastly, multiply job creation opportunities. This program will enable us to put our economy at the service of our public policies and to accelerate the economic growth. The economic growth that we would like to make sure is inclusive and is protecting the environment, and will allow us to go faster in attaining the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, tireless efforts have been made in order to implement projects and programs aimed at combating inequality, exclusion, and vulnerability, and to do this by improving the access to basic services, supporting education and healthcare. Furthermore, we have worked to consolidate the national unity and social cohesion, as well as improving the political landscape, strengthening the rule of law, good governance. These efforts also aim at improving our educational system to make sure that our children have the values of openness, tolerance, and freedom through the prism of our cultural identity. The goal is to improve the quality and effectiveness of our schools to make sure that they meet the needs of the job market. Now, on fighting poverty, we are committed to fighting social disparities and helping those who are in need. We therefore have created a special unit on national solidarity and combating exclusion, and have started a number of projects. A wide-reaching project in this regard in order to improve employment, means of subsistence, improve access to basic services, electricity, drinking water, healthcare, and education. We also launched programs to train the young people, to prepare them for the labor market, and to contribute to the country's economy. Considerable efforts have been made to promote the role played by women and their participation in the public life and in the political life. Mr. President, in order to attain sustainable development, we are focusing on independence, justice, human rights, consolidating democracy, and individual and collective freedom, freedom of the press, transparency of our political institutions, promoting the monitoring role by the Parliament, transparency in public affairs, and putting together a legal and regulatory mechanism in order to eradicate corruption. Mr. President, it's impossible to have development without security and vice versa, and that's why the Islamic Republic of Mauritania put together an effective strategy in order to combat terrorism and all forms of fanaticism. We're doing this thanks to an approach which takes into account the security, ideological, economic, and social approaches. When we were presiding over the deliberations of G5 Sahel, together with our regional and international partners, we have held intensive dialogues in order to come up with a roadmap on how to neutralize terrorism and eliminate its sources of funding. We took part in a number of meetings and hosted summits which has enabled us to move forward in our fight against violent extremism, our fight that has to be conducted fully in compliance with human rights. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, the countries of the Maghreb for decades have been suffering from the conflict in the Western Sahara. The position of the impartial position of Mauritania here remains unchanged. We have excellent relations with all of the parties in favor of the UN efforts here and the Security Council resolutions in order to come up with peace acceptable to all. As regards the situation in Mali, there we play the role of mediation in order to make sure that President Qaeda can receive care abroad. We called on the parties to the conflict to come to an agreement on the outstanding issues and return to the constitutional order. And I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate the efforts made by the Mali authorities and the ECOWAS in order to find a way out of the crisis as quickly as possible and to put the country back on the constitutional track. Mauritania has always been on the right side of international community causes, and we would like to reiterate our attachment to the inalienable right of the Palestinian people to dignity and sovereign state, which is independent and inviolable, with its capital in East Jerusalem, in line with the relevant resolutions and the Arab peace initiative. We condemn Israeli violations of human rights in Palestine and the occupied Arab territories. We also support the international efforts made in order to have peace in Libya and preserve the unity of this country. As regards the situation in the Syrian Arab Republic, there must be a political solution to preserve the unity and the independence of this sister Arab country and to enable the Syrians to have a dignified and peaceful and safe lives. As regards the situation in Yemen, he would like to express our support for legitimacy, and we plead for a peaceful solution in line with relevant international resolutions and Arab initiatives. We condemn terrorist attacks which are trying to undermine the peace of the Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much. May the peace of God be upon you. On behalf of the General Assembly, I would like to thank the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation in Mauritania for the statement just made.